Big up, everyone. Welcome back to another match reaction on Chic TV. A little bit of a disappointing one as we do get our first setback for Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. Manchester United traveled to Arsenal yesterday, and we did lose 2-0 at the Emirates Stadium. A little bit of a definitely a disappointing performance. And it starts a lot from minute one and the lineup itself. And we are going to get into it. But before we do, make sure you guys do run up the likes and subscribe if you haven't already. We are on the road to 600 subs, and we're very, very close. And so I want to thank you guys all for the support so far. Let's get into the game. Lineup. I had a lineup in my head going into this game, and I'll just talk a little bit about it. It was basically going to be Onana. It was basically going to be very similar to Everton. I am a firm believer in if you are experimenting, if you're in a stage of experimentation at this moment, after a result like Everton, it would just only seem right that you would go with most of those same players. Despite that being said, though, I do understand the problem that he does kind of have, and the problem that he has kind of showed in this game against Arsenal as well. The problem is that he has to rotate because he has to keep his better players fit for majority of these games. Also, new training patterns, new training regimes, new system, new type of way that we play obviously does affect the physical aspect of these players quite a lot in terms of like fitness. So this is something that initially we might have an issue with, and it looks like we kind of are. But at the same time, this is something that gradually over time can also improve and be much better as he does spend more time with the squad in terms of implementing his style and tactics. So he had to rotate the team. I would have preferred a similar lineup like Everton, but he went with a very, very different one with some players that I do not obviously rate being at this club or even being near anywhere that's starting 11. So I'll tell you the lineup itself. It was Onana, and I'm also going to show it on the screen as well. So it was Onana, who started off as goalkeeper. De Ligt was in the back as well. Maguire started. And Mazraoui also started as a center back. Obviously, we had injuries with Luke Shaw, who just received a setback yet again. Martinez missed this game because of a yellow card that he picked up against Everton. So we did have some problems at center back. However, Lenny Euro was on the bench. So that was an option that we actually did exercise in the game as well, much, much later on, though. But I don't think he wanted to start him right away just because of like rustiness and match fitness, because he hasn't. Yesterday was officially his first ever like Premier League minutes since he's been at Manchester United. He's been injured pretty much since. That was the back three. In the midfield, he went with Ugarte and Bruno, surprisingly. So we've seen Bruno more in the 10 role, which even though I don't rate Bruno as highly as other people do in this fan base, I think if he has a spot in this team or if this manager is going to continue to select him, I prefer him to play much higher in the pitch based off of how many times this guy loses the ball. So that was a big worry going into that game, of course, with Bruno and Ugarte being in that being in that like pivot role, you could say. And then in the attack, our front three absolutely terrible. Obviously, I forgot to mention the wingbacks. It was Dalot and it was Malacia. So he decided to go with Malacia in today. One of the big changes that he made was Amad Diallo not starting. Amad Diallo, arguably, not even arguably, I think it's a clear thing for everyone to see that he's been the best player under Amorim this system so far. Second one is a close one with Mazraoui because Mazraoui's been balling out as well. But those two players specifically are ones that have been shining a lot under this system so far in the games that we've seen. So for him to not start was a big thing that I quite initially didn't understand. But I did read some reports after Everton where he did say that Amad was a little bit fatigued and it could be a fitness issue. And that's why, hence, I think he rotated the squad quite a lot. It's an experiment that he decided to do. And obviously it didn't pay out, but there's reasoning behind it. And the reasoning probably is because of the fact that he had to rotate the team. However, I'm not someone who, even going into this game, I wasn't really confident, but I'm not someone who likes to lose to the rivals, and we all obviously always should set up to win, not to get a draw or anything like that in terms of setting us up like defensively, which is something I'm just going to get into in a little bit. But it's more so of the fact that I do want to go into these games wanting to win. Also, Arsenal is not the ideal game to experiment something like this either. We have Nottingham Forest up on the weekend, and then we do also have Victoria. I think it's Victoria Pleasant in the Europa League after. Those two games are perfect games for you to try to experiment something. If you're trying to figure out the squad even further, if you're trying to figure out the guys that you can trust, even though I feel like you should have figured it out already. You've had a lot of training sessions with them so far. We've played 3 games, but that's not something that I'm taking as a diss towards him or critiquing him over. It's more just so over the fact that you should know that some of these players honestly just ain't it. And anyways, with that being said, the front three that he went with was Hoyland, Mount, and Garnacho. Those were the front three that he went with. So just right off the bat, I knew that we're not going to score any goals with that front three. Mount, who, if I ask anyone, they couldn't tell me one thing that he's good on the ball at. So we can disregard him already. Garnacho, I shouldn't even honestly speak about him. You guys already should know by this time what I think of Alejandro Garnacho at Manchester United so far. And Hoyland is a limited player. He's not good enough. It's as simple as that, and it showed. So that's what we went with. However, in my head, the game plan, or I was trying to figure out what this game plan was after listening or finding out about this lineup. I thought he was going to go defensive, which he did kind of as well. He was going to go defensive in that first half. And then the second half, where we've seen him make a lot of changes, not just at United so far in the 2 or 3 games that he's had, but also just at Sporting too, specifically the Manchester City game where he made a lot of changes either at halftime or close to halftime to try to change the game itself. And that's something that he actually did. First half, we were very defensive. I don't think Arsenal had a clear cut chance in the first half from open play. Obviously, the 2 goals that they scored from Saliba and Timber were set piece goals. And it was from 2 corners. And having that being said, we did concede about 15 corners in that game too. In terms of clear cut chances, though, Arsenal weren't that threatening in the first half. I think we shut them out well, but we were also not taking too many risks. There were times where Dallo and Malacia, the 2 wingbacks, um, had a switch on. So the player who had the ball could have played a switch to either of those wingbacks, but they oftentimes decided to go safe. And I feel like that also cemented that thought in my head that he's trying to go a little bit more defensive. Then he's going to bring on those players. And in terms of rotation, too, like it's fewer minutes for all of them. So fitness wise, like everyone's going to get a little bit of a rest going into Forest this weekend with however he was going to, if that's what he went with, right? And that's what he did. So at halftime, he took off Malacia because I think Malacia received the booking. So he brought on Ahmad and then took off Garnacho, took off Mount, brought on Xerxes, brought on I said Rashford, brought on Xerxes. So like he made a lot of these changes, but it was honestly a little too late. And if that's what the game plan was going into this game, then I'm kind of disappointed because I think looking at Arsenal and the way that they played too, there was definitely something there for the taking. And obviously, this is something that I didn't mention as well. Arsenal's lineup was a little bit shocking too because their best defender so far, who I think has been better than Saliba as well, Gabriel, was not there. He was missing because of injury. I saw Zinchenko in the lineup, and I just completely thought that if Ahmad starts on that side against Zinchenko, he could be in big, big trouble. Zinchenko could be in big, big trouble. We saw that in a moment in the game too, where Ahmad absolutely ripped him to shreds. And right after that moment, Arteta took Zinchenko off because he realized how big of a liability Zinchenko could be in that moment of the game where Ahmad we will continue to play that ball to the right-hand side. We already go a lot towards our right-hand side. A lot of our goals that we've scored so far have actually been assisted by Ahmad. I think he has like 3 assists so far in the Premier League under Ruben Amorim. So those are just some things that I feel like if you went with a little bit of a stronger lineup, like I understand you could rotate, but there's another way to rotate too, where you could play some of those guys who, like, you could have started Rashford instead of Garnacho. You could have played Xerxes instead of Hoyland. You could have done that. You could have gone with those two at least, just based off of that Everton game, because those two guys scored a brace in that game. So he's learning. It will take some time, of course. I'm not sitting here being fully concerned about this whole performance, and it's a mistake, and it's something that I have critiqued him over, and this is just something that I will do with honestly any manager. I was having this conversation on Flawless's channel yesterday. Shout out to Flawless every single time. Sarcasm City TV. Go subscribe there if you haven't already. I was having a conversation with Tony, who's another Arsenal fan on his channel. Shout out to him as well. Tony Claw Gunner TV. Go subscribe to him too. Where he was basically talking about how we're not. At what point do we continue to, I guess, criticize this manager? I think it's not the point that we're continuing to criticize this manager. This is the first time that I have. So because this is the first time that I have, I think it's, well, first of all, I think it's okay to critique someone if there's something that you don't like. Critiquing someone doesn't obviously mean that you're abusing them, or you're being a lot of negative towards them, or you're trying to show hate towards them. Critiquing is just a critique. It could be as small as just saying that I didn't like the lineup that Ruben Amorim put out, and I didn't. So that's pretty much it for that game. There's nothing really for me to be concerned about. I think we still have a lot to look forward to. There's still a lot of time in the season left. I would rather have him experiment these type of things now. Obviously, the only thing I didn't like that he chose to experiment it in this game, but I would rather have him experiment these things. It would only seem right that a manager would want to experiment things early on rather than later on. So I'm happy that he did that early. Some positives that I could take from this game was Malacia was exceptionally good. I think he shut out Saka for most part of the game. Saka was a threat at times, but not that big of a threat. Odegaard was shut out by our midfield, more so Ugarte. I wouldn't really say Bruno, more so Ugarte. Who else was I going to say? Lenny Euro, for the minutes that he got. Boy, what a player does he look. He had there was a 1v1 chance between him and Trossard, and that tackle that he makes was absolutely class. And yeah, I'm just so excited to see more from him. Now that he's fully fit too, or he's getting to full fitness, I want to see him start games, and I want to see how that kind of improves our team too. Another thing that I've always said in my like match reactions and or previews, and also like Mud Brothers and stuff as well, is I want to see Ahmad in the 10. So these are some things, because Euro is going to come back and Martinez obviously missed the game because of suspension. These are guys who are going to be fit for Nottingham Forest. So going into Nottingham Forest, I want to see the strongest lineup that we can put out, and I want us to go and get a convincing win, because that's how I want these players to respond to the performance today. That's how I want Ruben Amorim to respond to the performance yesterday, I should say, actually. But yeah, go to Nottingham Forest, go to Old Trafford, and play Nottingham Forest, because it's a home game, and batter them. That's really what it is. They just got battered by Manchester City, who were winless in 7, and yeah, like, we got to go out there and do the business. So it is what it is. And then we play Manchester City right after that as well. So 2 tough away trips back to back, but 2 games definitely that we could get something out of. But yeah, with that being said, things are okay. I still believe in Ruben Amorim, and yeah, we just have honestly a lot to look forward to. So yeah, that's pretty much it, honestly, for the match reaction today, people. Thank you guys, like I said, for all the support so far, and check out all the other videos that I have on my channel as well. If you guys didn't know, I obviously do a show every single Monday called The Mud Brothers Show with Eli. These are co-panelists and my friends: Eli, who's an Arsenal fan; De Niro, who's a Tottenham fan; CP, who's a Chelsea fan; and Spooby, who is a Manchester United fan like myself. So check out that show every single Monday. And check out all the other videos that I have on my channel as well. And yeah, keep supporting and subscribe. And definitely don't forget to like the video. Big up, take care, and we'll catch you all on the next one.